Hey, everybody, welcome. Oh my gosh, we are here live with you guys today. This is Chelsea and I. Thank you for joining us
Hey, Mary.
today. Hey, girl. Oh my gosh, so this is our first time using StreamYard, and we're having so much fun with this actually. And today we're going to have even more fun talking about the three biggest mistakes women make after a breakup and how to fix it fast. So we're just going to have a conversation about this, right, Chelsea?
This is something that I think we
Here.
both have a lot of, it's personal experience, also professional experience. Mary and I both have our businesses centered around this experience. Mary is a rise from divorce. I'll let you maybe share a little bit more about who you are, and then I'll do the same.
Awesome. Well, so I put the title here, what we're going to talk about, and we're going to give some good tips too, not just show you what the problem is. But the awareness is important, first of all, right? So for us to know what it is. But yeah, hi, I'm Mary Huang, and I have Rise from Divorce Academy, and I specialize in helping women rebuild and reinvent a powerful life after divorce and heartbreak.
Beautiful. I'm so excited. I just love knowing you. I love working with you. This is so exciting to have this conversation with everyone here. Hello, everyone. I'm Chelsea Frederick, and my background and my kind of my love and full on interest is talking about the comeback. And of course, comebacks are huge when it comes to breakups. All of the things that kind of fall apart and then get put back together. And we're here today talking about this really crucial window of time. Mary and I are just really excited to explore what that looks like. We both know what that can look like. We have different backgrounds in terms of this. My I have a few. My first major separation was in about 2012 or 2013, and I ended up having another one in about 2017. And so I'm excited to talk about some of these things with you, Mary, because I have done some of the things that we're saying not to. A
Right?
little bit of a cautionary tale. And that's the thing I want to say is that we all do them, right? We've probably all done them before and we may do them again, but we're here to offer a bit of a new perspective. And this is part of the work that we do, because we are both here to really help support women be in their most radiant expression. And breakups can really take that away from us.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that we're speaking from experience and also the experience of working with other women going through this. Yesterday, I made a post about this topic, and somebody wrote back, actually, America, she said, I probably made all of the mistakes, and I'm like, well, I can speak to these mistakes because I've made them myself. Right. And when we make enough of the mistakes enough times, then we know, okay, these are the biggest mistakes that we've seen in all the women that we've worked with. And we want to share it so people can sidestep it or wake up to themselves doing it. Right.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, girl.
Well, I was just going to say, because there really are no mistakes. That's, some of the things
Sure.
that I really feel in life is that, we call them mistakes because we're like, okay, maybe I would have done it differently, but there's always gold within the mistakes as well. So, as we're speaking on this and as you're listening to this, it's important to also look back and reflect on some of the things that may have happened in previous breakups, or maybe in a recent breakup that you're just healing from right now. And there's so much goodness, there's so much growth within the full range of experience. And this conversation is to really highlight three of the major ones, the major mistakes, the major kind of pitfalls that we can literally fall into and that can actually prolong suffering. And I think that's essentially what we're here to help support women in as well, is, the suffering that can go on and on and on, but there are ways out of that. There's ways to really start to recognize and initiate healing faster when we catch them. So that's what we're here to talk about, these three main ones.
Right. And if you're somebody who's still struggling to feel better, if you're still finding that you're in the pattern of attracting the same people and relationships all the time, this conversation is for you. So, let's move on into some of these points that we wanted to conversate about today.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
hmm?
All right, so the first one being dating or having sex too soon. And of course, this is something that so many of us do. And I'll really share that, from my first major separation, and I think this is something that so many can relate to, is we don't want to be alone. We walk away from something that feels really unhealthy and dysfunctional. And it's scary, it's daunting, especially if we're also not seeing our children all of the time. If that's also been part of the breakup, is that we have this desire to not be alone, and this can create this very first pitfall that I think so many people do, and I have definitely done this through several breakups, is not giving ourselves that time, that it's time to heal, it's time to reflect, it's time to get to know yourself again, because you may have really literally forgotten who you are, and lost that shine and that spark that you have. So it's like, if we just jump right into a new relationship, which so many of us do, which I have multiple times, I'll own it. And I'm, again, there's no mistakes, because so many amazing learnings came out of this for me. But if you happen to be you just right in the middle of a breakup that's happening, we just want to really highlight the importance of this and the awareness. And this actually will tie into our third point that we'll be sharing about in a few minutes. But it's like this gift that you can give yourself, and just acknowledging that it might be lonely, it might be painful, it might be triggering, it might be really, really hard, but it will actually speed up your healing and slow down or lessen the suffering that you're experiencing long term, and just bring so much strength.
What do you think about codependency? How does codependency play into when we're in a stage of development and decide to quickly get involved, even if it's like casual dating or just having sex? Like, I feel like it's a way of pacifying
Mm-hmm. Yep, soothing. Yep.
a wounded inner child part of us that like needs love, needs connection, just needs a warm body there to feel. And I feel like it's subconscious. It's not like people go out there thinking, oh, I'm going to do this because I have a wounded inner child and I need a safety blanket in the form of a human, And that's why I think it's important to have these conversations. Because so many times we're not even aware of what it is that we're doing. And having that awareness, like I said earlier on, is often the first key for us to be able to then own it, like you said. And then once we take full ownership, then we can actually do something to change it.
Absolutely. And yeah, codependency, I mean, this is something, it's this undercurrent that is impacting so many of us. It's, part of this ancestral healing. Codependency is something that's passed down through generations. It's something that we really inherit in our subconscious at a very, very early age. And it's something to heal from and unlearn. And it's been a big part of my own personal journey, and what I teach with my clients as well, because it's this, a couple of the hallmarks of codependency is this need to fix someone else, and then we neglect our own. It's like and again, one of the hallmarks is seeing what everybody else needs to heal or to fix but yourself, and then also overextending yourself. And so, we tend to often, when we're like that, get into relationships with individuals who we see, have potential, or that, maybe we can help them or support them. And that is definitely a recipe for a challenging relationship, I think.
I feel like I see that more in women, even growing up, starting to date at in our earlier years. I felt like that was more of a conversation that women had, that females had, dating people for their potential versus what's right here in the present moment. And breaking that is a pretty big, powerful thing to do.
Oh, there's so much wrapped up in it, even our own self-worth, right? Like that we would actually choose to engage in a relationship with someone that isn't necessarily ready or able to engage in a really beautiful and healthy relationship. And this brings in, you know, all of the attachment styles. I think that this is a really important conversation within relationships. And, you know, many of you watching will have heard of them before, you know, that there's that avoidant and anxious attachment style, or there's the other one, I can't think of the name, but it's a little bit more of a chaotic one. It's like a flip between both of those. And it really is something, again, to notice within ourselves, you know, what we tend towards, what we gravitate towards, what our patterns are, so that we can catch them. And the healing process is something that can actually happen quite quickly. In my opinion, there's a lot of subconscious work. You know, what's helped me the most has been things like hypnotherapy, trauma release, inner child work, and of course, looking at codependency too. So there, you know, like it is, and it's very individual. So yeah, I mean, I just, essentially, it's looking at this, noticing, are you wanting to jump right into a relationship? Do you have a hard time being alone? You know, do you have a hard time being single? What do you do when you don't have any plans on the weekend? Like, does that send you into a full-on panic, or does that feel really juicy and nourishing, you know, that you can actually take some time for yourself and, you know, go to the mountains or the ocean, or just pamper yourself all weekend? I think a lot of us that are in codependency cannot fathom being alone. And that's a pretty big red flag.
It is. And, you know, I feel like there's gradations now that I've worked more and more with people. I don't think it's always black and white. What you've described is definitely like textbook, and it's definitely what a lot of people identify with. But I think there's gray area too. And you tell me what you think, where, you know, you could be really comfortable alone, but then when you're in a relationship, then it gets activated, like the relationship blueprint of that moment of your development can still have, you know, remnants of that kind of enmeshment, you know, and do you know what I'm trying to say? There's gray areas.
Well, and I'm so happy you brought this up, because this is an important thing. The flip side of this is being alone for too long, because then you get comfortable being alone, but there's something about being in the kind of the imprinted relationship that we tend to draw in. There's something about that. So for those that are watching that are also in a challenging relationship, and you know, you're on the verge, you're wanting to leave, and you're really thinking about it, this is something that I learned from my hypnotherapist that I also work with my clients. It's that there's actually benefit of being in the trigger, because if you've been single for years and you're not being triggered in the way that you can be, like you're talking about in these gray areas, then it's really challenging to actually heal through them. So it can be really a beautiful thing to be in a triggering relationship and notice it and do something about it. And really have it be an opportunity for healing for both of you in the relationship. Maybe that means the relationship gets stronger. Maybe that means in the end it's time to part ways. But that you know, so that's where, you know, and all of the things that we talk about, I think there are gray areas and everything. And so it's like really looking at this from a timeline perspective as well, and a really holistic perspective, so that we can really have, I mean, I think the end goal for all of us is just to be happy, whether we're in our ideal relationship or whether we're taking some time on our own.
I fully agree with that. You know, I use different languaging, but it speaks to the same exact concept. I feel like relationships are sacred for that reason. You know, our best friend, our closest friend, no matter how close they are, they cannot trigger these wounds from childhood the same way that these intimate relationships can do. And it's sacred for that reason, that it activates us to see our shadow side, to see something hidden in our subconscious mind, to see the reflection in the mirror through sacred relationships, to recognize ourselves. And this is true for all relationships. Everything is a reflection of, you know, us projecting out. You know, if we're really irritated by something, we have to catch ourselves and be like, okay, this person, I'm irritated at them because of X, Y, and Z. Hold up. Is it possible that this is something about me? Right. And yeah.
Well, and I think this leads us really beautifully into the next topic.
Yeah, okay. Let
So
me
let's yeah, because this is exactly it.
So complaining, so the mistake number two that we see most often with women who are just breaking up or been broken up, and it's this complaining about the ex too much. And really complaining about the ex at all, or complaining, period. And so it really takes a lot of training our own mind, being aware that, like, we do have these streams of thoughts that are constant, unless you have some sort of meditative practice so that you can try to catch the void between thoughts. And that's juicy. That's like you're off into the cosmos. But let me bring it back to what we're talking about: complaining about the ex too much. Sure, maybe it was really toxic, maybe it was actually abusive, because stats are showing that this is still on the rise. It's a real issue, but that's not what we're saying. We're not saying we're excusing the partner for what happened. We're saying, if you are going to go around and call up all of your best friends and tell the same story rehashed over and over again, the problem is, number one, what you think about, you bring about. Number two, what you speak, you're speaking into your reality. We're actually all magicians. We're all speaking. Our words are attracting our reality. It's manifestation. So we have to be impeccable with our words, right? I'm saying a lot of phrases from a lot of different teachers, and some of you, who are on the path might recognize. But they're all truths saying the same thing, that we cannot, well, you can, but we have to choose to go down a different route of not going around complaining constantly about pointing the finger on who's wrong and blaming, because when you're pointing the finger out, three are pointing back at you. That's another saying that is common. But how do we fix this? There are therapeutic ways to talk about your hurt, your pain, your depression, your anger, your rage, your whatever it is, your heartbreak. You're feeling so wronged. You're feeling it's so unjust. How could this happen? How could they do that to me? This is valid. You have emotions. We are human, but we have to do it in a therapeutic way. You got to find a life coach who specializes in this area, a community, maybe a sacred circle, which, by the way, yes, I am seeding the fact that we are going to be launching something like that coming up soon. And if you want to know more, come to our webinar, free webinar, and here's the link here. But back to the topic, instead, so you have a need to express your hurt, but you got to do it in a way that's healthy and therapeutic, so that at the end of what you're saying, you have a resolution, you have a healing, you have an aha moment, you have something that's going to help you move forward in an empowered way that's benefiting you. Mm-hmm. What would you add to that?
Ooh, there's a few things. And I know we kind of segued into this by really that whole self-awareness and looking at our own role and really owning our half. And I think that's something that we can lose sight of, especially if we are complaining a lot and we're forgetting that there's a role that we play as well. And again, not condoning any kind of abusive behavior, but also just really realizing that energy of complaining, not even complaining about the ex, but also complaining about our partners if we are actually in a relationship, and just starting to really, when that's happening, the love, it's like a vacuum. It's just sucked right out of the room. And so it's really just starting to bring the love in. And I certainly did this one, this mistake, especially, in my very first separation. And it's something that I realized, just like you said, I was basically keeping myself stuck by doing it. I was keeping myself within that energetic frequency, and it prevented me for the longest time from actually being able to see what I needed to learn and know to actually heal. Like, it was keeping me stuck in pain. And it was also having a negative impact from my relationships, from the beautiful people who were there to support me. But, it got to a point where it was like, okay, enough already. This is really all we talk about. And because again, I did this, I followed, I think, like I mentioned, all of these three things that we're talking about. It actually perpetuated this pain into future relationships. And, you know,
Mm.
I'm happy that you said that about no complaining at all, because I mean, again, especially with a lot of the training and learning that I've been doing more recently, I just, I adore men. And I think that, you know, there's this energy of really complaining, not even about our ex, but our partners, but about men in general. And I just want to really bring in this reminder of how amazing men are and how amazing men can
Mm.
be. And you know, it's like one of those things that when you are focused on the negative traits, that's all you're going to be able to see.
Mm.
And so, one offering that I just want to share is start to connect to what you love about them. Like, what makes them, I mean, again, we're different, right? So, like, with your partner, what it is about them that is just so in contrast about you that you love, you know? And again, if it's an ex, getting yourself, especially, oh, this is so crucial if you share children with them, getting yourself to a place where you can forgive and you
Mm.
can love them for being an amazing parent still, for being an amazing co-parent, for supporting you in the ways that they still possibly do. Um, and it's just really, oh, it just brings in this gentleness
Mm.
into your life. And it's so healing and it's expansive and it impacts them and then it amplifies. And it
And
can
what I
be
want to add to that is definitely the forgiveness. And, you know, if it was an abusive situation, and there, the forgiveness doesn't have to be a face-to-face conversation. Forgiveness, as we often hear and is true, is for us. And it
mm-hmm.
does energetically release the person to be free. It releases you to be free. And it also releases the frequency from having to be repeated in future relationships. And also, all of these things, especially in this topic, is a process. It takes time, it takes awareness, and it takes discipline and practice and awareness. And that's okay because that's what life really is, whether we're talking about weight loss, strength training. And what we're talking about is emotional strength training. We're talking about shedding old ways of what we've been programmed with. And this is our field. This is what we're, you know, specialized in because we went through so much pain and we decided to heal ourselves. And then now we get to help other people.
Yeah, and this, you know, again, like you're the queen of the segue. I love that you just brought this up right now because also what I wanted to say, like the last thing about this, the point about complaining is there's this whole aspect of emotional intelligence that really is something to seek mastery in, to really get good at. And when I first really started learning about emotional intelligence, it just became this thing that I just wanted to kind of tackle. You know, like I wanted to really understand this. And what I've learned, you know, just from like a really high level of emotional intelligence is, and it goes along with what we're talking about prioritizing yourself. This is our third pitfall or third mistake, is when you prioritize yourself, you give yourself the space to practice things like emotional intelligence, which is really essentially when something does trigger you. We can all be in this place of, especially just with how we are kind of in the world right now, in this knee jerk wanting to fight, this overreactive, our nervous system will just, it's like a tripwire, you know, we just react so quickly. And one of the ways we can prioritize ourselves is to take the space for us to really process. I mean, there's a million ways of prioritizing ourselves, and they're a lot more fun than working on your emotional intelligence. So we're going to get to those. But prioritizing yourself, I believe, is a really key ingredient of emotional intelligence. It's that giving yourself the gift to walk away from, you know, something that might be heated, from a discussion, from a texting war, something online, and really giving yourself the time, because that's the only way you'll actually be able to really understand what the learning is for you, so that you can move through it. So that's the first part I did want to say, just to kind of tie those last 2 points together. But Mary, what are some of the ways that you love
Mm.
to prioritize yourself and teach your ladies that you work with how to prioritize?
Oh, yeah. Like for me to practice and for me to teach, it's the divine feminine. First of all, we all have divine masculine, feminine energies within every individual. But since we're in a female body, both of us have tapped into really harnessing the divine feminine. And we're both taking a stand to collaborate so that we can really help heal the collective's divine feminine and then bring it into balance within us, because that's where the true radiance, the true power of magnetism and attraction comes from. And so whenever I find myself out of balance, so if the masculine and feminine are out of balance and I'm running too much into the achieving, getting goals met, creating like just too much, going after it, I have to catch myself and pull back and prioritize myself and my balance so that I can be in this like rested place, that I can be in this. The divine feminine is so juicy and so powerful and magnetic. Like we literally get to take a bath, put on a face mask, and it sounds so frivolous, but it's so not. It's just taking care. That's just one example, and I'm talking about it, addressing it from a body perspective, a body temple perspective. But of course, there's other emotional intelligence, psychological, psychic, emotional. There's a lot of departments we can talk about. But one of my favorite ways is to just like screeching halt, caught myself being out of balance, and then going to my go-to, which is a salt bath with some rose oil, a mud mask, and taking a nap. And then I get to really show up fully for my children, for my work, for my clients, for whatever that I am here to do on the planet. Then I can really be the conduit of the divine radiating through me. And that's really what we are here to teach. That's really what we have embodied, what we've learned through other teachers, found our own way. And then now, like, this is what we need to activate in all women who are ready for this.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
And just, being at this point and having this conversation, it's like, it's exactly that. It's prioritizing our pleasure, prioritizing ourselves, and really acknowledging that, potentially the way that we have been doing things isn't working. Mm-hmm. And getting support and being in community with other women that are, needing the same thing, encouraging one another is important. And I know we have another conversation that we are hosting next week, and I know Mary's going to share a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So before I get into that, let me just tie up and review all the things that we just covered, the 3 biggest mistakes women make after a breakup and how to fix it ASAP. And of course, there's no judgment because we come from experience, we come from love. And the first point was dating or having sex too soon as a way of pacifying the fear of being alone and not even being aware that we're doing that as a safety blanket. And the reason why we want to avoid that is because there's a moment in time between breakups, like the end of one and the beginning of another, where you get to really heal, review, and assess what you just went through so that you can grow and have the best experience as a human, period. And then attract the kind of relationship that you actually want. And we can only attract what we are. The level of development that we are is the kind of person that we attract. So we definitely want to be reviewing what just happened so we can attract the actual relationship that we always wanted. All right, so that's number 1. And so the fix on that one is take a pause. Take a pause, be with some girlfriends, take time, learn about yourself, heal. And that's so, so important. Number 2, complaining about your ex too much. If you're going around complaining too much, you're just going to recreate more of it and you're going to get stuck. And so the way to get out of that trap is to make sure you are doing it therapeutically, learn how to do it therapeutically with a specialist, like someone like Chelsea or myself, or maybe one of our programs coming up. And you can learn more about that in the next conversation I'm going to be inviting you to. And the third mistake most women make is not prioritizing yourself. You've got to take the time to take a bath and go into nature and ground yourself. And so those are some of the fixes that you could do right away to help yourself sidestep these big mistakes that we see time and again. Now, if you want to go deeper into this conversation, we are having a free webinar coming up in just a few days, and we would love to invite you to come join us. It's free, and here's a link you can see right on the screen, bit.ly/Radiant Queen. And it's bit.ly/Radiant Queen. So go there. You'll have a couple days to choose from. And we would love to see you there because we're going to dive deeper into a different topic, which is the 5 keys to healing your heart after a breakup. And so that's what I got for you guys. Make sure you follow Chelsea. Here's her handle on Instagram. It's at chelsea.frederick. And I'll make sure I'll put these in the notes. And you make sure you follow me on Instagram at Rise From Divorce. And that's what we got for you guys today. These are easy to do practices, right? These are not difficult. These are things that you can totally do. And we believe in you. And that's why we're here taking a stand for all women who are ready to heal to join us. Any closing words, Chelsea?
Oh, just thank you, Mary, for sharing, and thanks for everyone who's watching, and so excited for next week. It's going to be really beautiful just to dive into the healing, and we brought up healing so much within this conversation, so we're really just going to take this a little bit deeper and start to weave through some actual tools that will support any ladies that are really going through this heartbreak right now. So we'll see you there. We can't wait, and we have you.
Yes, we do.
Support you through it all.
Yes, that is our calling. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us. Love you so much. Love you, Chelsea.
Love you, Mary.
See you guys. Bye.